It was really scary.
We didn't know if she was going to be helped. We were scared. We were very, very scared.
It's hard to see someone you love that much falling apart in front of your eyes.
I think she felt like she was going crazy.
There was something really wrong. There was something really wrong with my body.
I was wondering if she might die because she got so sick.
How long is this going to last? Am I going to be able to live a normal life?
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. Sometimes when a person falls gravely ill, we'll say something deadly is growing inside them. In Nancy Jaffe's case, this was quite literally true. As a young college student at the peak of health, a chance incident sent her life reeling off course. As Nancy's emotional and physical health unraveled, her family and friends shared her fear and pain. After finding no answers with conventional physicians and having her sanity questioned, Nancy fought to reclaim a future she once thought was lost.
For a year and a half, I had toxins floating in my bloodstream instead of nutrients.
For a year and a half, another, I don't want to say being, but I guess another being had been inhabiting her body with her.
I wasn't sure if Nancy was ever going to recover. I wasn't sure if we were ever going to figure out what was wrong with her because it seemed like every doctor she went to turned her away with this idea that she was crazy.
It scared me. I mean, she was in a bad place. She was sick.
In my heart of hearts, I never thought that she was going to die. I don't know why, but I just did not think she was going to die. Was I afraid that this was going to be a lifelong problem that she was going to have to deal with? Yes.
It was very hard finding answers. Every test I took was coming up that I was a healthy girl, that I was healthy.
Nancy Jaffe grew up in Santa Monica, California. Living near the ocean, she had an affinity for the water and loved to swim. Vital and healthy, Nancy was a good athlete. But the true passion in her life turned out to be art.
As a little girl, I loved doing art, especially painting and sculpture. I think I started taking classes when I was about 10 years old.
Nancy continued creating art throughout her school years, then enrolled at Willamette University to study art history and studio art.
The first time I met Nancy was when I was a freshman and came into the university. She was a year older, and I was immediately drawn to Nancy's charisma and passion for life. She has a depth to her that not many people I've ever known have. And within minutes, I was sharing everything that had ever happened to me, and Nancy and I became immediate friends.
In the summer prior to her sophomore year, Nancy traveled through Ecuador as part of an intensive language program.
I got to do amazing things like hike through the jungle and play in waterfalls, and one day we got to go rafting, and I was in a big inner tube with a girlfriend of mine that was down there, and the river had grown to like twice its size over one night because they had such torrential rainfall the night before. So we were going down the river at rapid speeds, and she got really scared and tipped us. And I ended up falling into the water, and I'm fairly positive that I swallowed at least, half a gallon of water. It was a major amount of water. It went in my nose, went up down my throat, everything.
Unknown to her then, swallowing river water would have health repercussions for years to come.
All of sophomore year, I was very healthy, and even the summer between sophomore and junior year, I had no health problems that I knew of.
Nancy is this pillar of health, and she starts to get sick, and we all assume that it's some sort of allergy because she starts having cramping. She's not feeling well.
One day in October, I was sitting at my desk and studying, and I noticed that my stomach was kind of feeling a little bit funny. Just felt like I was having a bowel movement, basically, that things were moving around inside of me, and I just needed to go to the bathroom is what I felt.
It was a very strange stomach ache, something she had never really felt before, and that she kind of felt like her stomach was undulating a little bit.
I went to the bathroom, and lo and behold, when I looked, there was a parasite in the bowl. It's about 1.5 feet long, and it was kind of a creamy white color. It was about as thick as my ring finger. It had the ribbing of an earthworm with a really bulbous head. And I called the wellness center on campus and I told them, I think I just excreted a parasite.
Nancy passed the parasite, and I got a call within a few minutes saying, you have to come over here. Something just came out of me. I need help.
There was a worm sticking out of the bowl. Straight out, it was a little bit shocking.
We go into the bathroom, and by now there's a little crowd collected in the hall because everyone has heard her reaction, and there are a number of close friends who live in her dorm too, so we're all collected here. And I go into the bathroom, and there it is.
It was much bigger than I, at that time, knew parasites could get.
It was scary. It was very scary. It's a worm that just came out of my best friend, and it was so big and about that round, and it was huge.
What shocked me was that I had never felt it. I never felt the parasite inside of me. I never showed any symptoms.
We knew that we were going to have to collect it and get it out of the toilet somehow to get it to the health center.
What they had given me to take all the parasite out of the toilet with was a spoon, a fork, chopsticks, a yogurt container, and some plastic gloves.
At first it was terrifying, and I ended up walking out of the stall absolutely shaking. And then Nancy and I look at each other and we just start laughing. That tends to be the way we handle traumatic events, is to try to find something funny.
Really typical Nancy. She was laughing. Oh, Mom, you're not going to believe what happened. And I figured out why my stomach or my intestines were undulating a little bit. And she said, you're not going to believe, but I found the parasite.
They told me it was going to take a week to figure out what was going to happen in terms of the lab results and what type of parasite it was and all of that. And I didn't know what that meant. A week seems like a really long time when you've just had something as foreign as a worm come out of you. And I got back to my dorm room, and about half an hour later I got a phone call from one of the nurses, and she said, we just opened up the yogurt container. We didn't realize how big it was. We're sending it in right now, and you need to go take pills immediately.
Nancy was immediately put on strong medications aimed at killing any additional parasites that might still be living in her body.
We all kind of took a deep sigh of relief. We understood that this was what had been affecting her physically recently, and the medicine that had been given to her by our health center should take care of it. Everything would be fine.
I was told by the wellness center that I was cured, that there was nothing more that needed to be done, that I had taken pills so that I wouldn't have any more parasites in me, and everything should be fine with my body.
I think we all just assumed that this entity is out of her now, so it can no longer be doing harm.
Feeling confident in her health, Nancy signed up for a study abroad program in Spain.
I was living in Spain for about 6 months, and while I was there, I got sick on average about once a month. But I assumed that it had to do with the fact that I was abroad. It didn't occur to me that this had anything to do with my parasite, because I had been told that I was cured. I had major headaches, I was dizzy all the time, I was on the verge of fainting all the time. I had trouble eating, I had trouble keeping food down. A little less than a week after I got home, I fainted for the first time. The first time I fainted, I was seeing things moving that weren't actually moving. And I remember sitting down in a chair, but the next thing I remember is being on the floor.
All of a sudden, she fainted. And we had trouble rousing her. So at that point, we took her to the emergency room. We were pretty much there all night, waiting our turn to be seen. And that's an incident that I'll never forget. It was very, very scary. It was scary for her, and it was scary for us.
The first fainting spell was just the beginning of many fainting spells that would occur. Throughout the summer of 2003, I was on the verge of fainting 2 to 3 times a week. And it would start off with nausea, and then it would be pressure behind my eyes, which would turn into a full-blown migraine type of headache, which would then become dizziness, which would then become fainting.
With a year left at Willamette University, Nancy's health began to implode.
Senior year was by far the most difficult year of my life. Not only was I experiencing physical ailments that I had no answer for, but I was emotionally distraught.
Because of how significantly she changed during that time, she lost a lot of her social support. It was pretty much me. So she's going through all these very traumatic physical issues. We can't figure out what's going wrong. She's getting sicker and sicker, and I could see her starting to deconstruct.
Jen was like a sister to me. She was by far the closest friend I had. I think Jen had a lot of trouble having to watch her best friend suffer the way that I was suffering, which was a great deal.
When I started feeling challenged in that friendship, in sticking by the person who meant the most to me, I knew something had to be wrong. Something else was up.
I just kind of wanted to hide away. I lived by myself and I stayed in my apartment a lot of the time because I did not know how to socially interact at that point in time.
Many tears shed after I would get off a phone conversation with her. Lots of times when I was worried, upset, didn't know if this problem could be solved. I was hurting for her and worried about her, and absolutely felt her despair, her panic, her concern, her worry, her anxiousness.
She had gotten so depressed, so emotionally erratic, so unhappy. I was concerned that she would commit suicide. I had never considered Nancy a suicidal person ever in my life, but she was so removed, so detached from the person that I thought she was, I wasn't sure what she'd do.
Jaffe was gravely ill. She began seeing numerous doctors, none of whom could uncover the cause of her illness. Unable to provide answers, they began to suggest that Nancy's problems were all in her head.
When I was first told that it was all in my head, that maybe I was having physical symptoms of an actual mental problem, I was really frustrated by that news, and I was actually pretty angered by that news. The idea that it could be something mental was not acceptable to me, but I also was in such a state that I was willing to believe it.
These doctors had no idea, and they started telling her that really she was crazy. I can't remember how many nights I stayed up on the internet trying to type in symptoms or type in what I thought was going on with her, trying to find some sort of answer, because she wasn't crazy. We knew something was wrong. It was obvious to anyone who knew her there was a significant physical change that was taking place that was affecting who she was as a person.
Finally, Nancy saw a physician, Dr. Ronald Roth, who, after examining scans of her sinuses, had no clear answers himself, but reasoned that Nancy needed an alternative path.
I think part of the key here is, if you really don't have all the answers, is to not hesitate to send the patient on to other people who you think have things to offer in terms of their care.
Suspecting the parasite Nancy had expelled might have caused ongoing damage, Dr. Roth referred Nancy to nutritionist Stacy Whittle.
Having a parasite in your system, the parasite is going to feed off of what you're ingesting. The intestinal wall was damaged from the parasite. You're not getting the nutrients that you need. You're chronically hungry. You're not nourished. You're malnourished. So Nancy essentially came into me malnourished.
To complete her new health team, Nancy was referred to Howard Leibowitz, a medical doctor who co-founded the Hall Center, which specializes in a science-based form of alternative healing they call functional medicine.
I was trained in internal medicine. I spent many years in emergency medicine. And after dealing with patients in a conventional way for a long time, we got to realize that there were a lot of patients that we were seeing who don't really get better. We were sort of patching them up, we were keeping them going, but they came back with the same problems and same conditions without really understanding what the cause of their problem was. So we started pursuing alternative ways to deal with these issues outside of the conventional teachings of Western medicine.
The difference between what Dr. Leibowitz does and what conventional doctors do is that his tests are not standard. They're beyond what your conventional physician might do.
When I was trained and practicing in a conventional medical arena, I would have looked at some basic blood work on her, most of which would have come back normal, and I would have maybe told her that it was an emotional condition or something like that. But when I looked at her from a functional perspective, I was able to determine that there were some significant abnormalities, and it led me on a path where I was able to help her through nutritional support in areas that tend to be overlooked in conventional medicine.
those test results showed that I had blown out my adrenals. And the adrenal glands are the glands that are responsible for administering most of the hormones to the body.
The disrupted regulation of hormones was triggering Nancy's emotional symptoms and wreaking havoc with her blood sugar levels.
Her adrenal glands were highly stressed. She had a very high cortisol level, and the high cortisol level was causing her to become insulin resistant. And when a person becomes insulin resistant, their blood sugar starts to go up, and that can actually lead to becoming full-blown diabetic.
Dr. Leibowitz also discovered the damage caused by the parasite had led Nancy to develop previously unrecognized food allergies.
The lab results had shown that I was allergic to dairy products and wheat products, as well as soy products. So finding all of these out from the lab results was kind of the first step in moving towards health, moving towards a cure.
To help flush lingering toxins from her body, Nancy was put on a nutritional detoxification program.
I put Nancy on a detox program, and the reason that I did that was we want to really get to a place where we can start building up the body. I put her on a medical food, which was part of the detox program, and it's just jam-packed with vitamins and nutrients that help heal the body, get it to a very, very good place, and then also a supplement that helps cleanse the liver. It's a major organ in the body, very, very helpful, along with eliminating any potentially allergenic foods.
Dairy was taken out of my diet, corn, wheat, soy. She put me on a heavy regime of supplements, B, calcium, C, but I was also on heavy supplements purely for my adrenals. And I saw results immediately. Within the first week, the emotional stress that I had had disappeared, and I wasn't anxious anymore. I was back and fully functioning emotionally.
It allowed her blood sugar to get very stabilized, and when her blood sugar was stabilized, her insulin level came down, and when her insulin level stabilized, it took a big stress off of her body, and then her cortisol would come down, and her adrenal glands calmed down, and her metabolism basically went back to normal, and this allowed her to have stable blood sugars, and then all of her symptoms went away.
Knowing that I indeed had these emotional and physical problems for a reason, it was one of the best feelings I've had. I mean, it was amazing relief to know that I was on the road to being cured. I think my future is really bright. I can see that I am going to be able to live a healthy lifestyle, that I will be able to understand the symptoms of my body and be able to control them, that my body is actually able to heal itself and take care of itself, which for a long time didn't seem to be the case.
If there was one lesson that I would urge people to take away from this experience is to trust your instinct, trust your gut. And we knew that the doctors who Nancy initially had met with were wrong. We knew that Nancy wasn't crazy. We knew there had to be some other option. We remained hopeful, and I guess that's the second lesson to learn, is don't give up. There has to be a way, there is a way. And for Nancy, natural medicine was that way.
When patients come back and they tell me that they're better, it's the greatest reward. It's one of the gifts of being in this profession, to really get to the root of their problem and correct it from that basis is the greatest gift any healer could possibly ask for.
Nancy's future looks terrific. She knows what she wants. Nancy knows the way her body's supposed to feel, and Nancy knows when to ask for help. I think that's the most important thing, is we need to know when to reach out and ask for help.
One of the things that I love to do is I love to empower people in terms of their own health and give them the skills and knowledge to allow themselves to maintain health. I feel like I'm a coach and the patient is the player, and I can't go out and score the touchdown for them, but I can give them the tools and the guidance so that they can go out and make the big score in terms of attaining maximal ideal health.
It made me feel like I was in control of what the next steps in my healthy path were meant to be. That I was working with doctors, but now I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me what I needed to do. It was now up to me to do it.
As difficult as it was, at times as unpredictable as it was, the journey our family shared is one that strengthened already strong bonds, that allowed us to show our unconditional love for each other, that made each member of our family know when any of us are going through a difficult experience that we will be there for each other as a team.
The fact that I was actually able to find answers and that my symptoms were able to be cured shows me that there's a reason to have hope, that it is possible to find solutions to the body's ailments, and I no longer have to doubt that, which I did for so long. I have a lot of faith in the practice that I'm on now and the lifestyle that I live now. It really supports me and really sustains me, and I think is going to keep me healthy for the rest of my life.
Nancy Jaffe is on the road to a full recovery. Today, she has a rewarding position in a prestigious art gallery, and Nancy is living her dream. She never gave up, and by finding healers willing to take an unconventional approach, Nancy reclaimed her future.